Okay, so I got like a bone to pick with this episode. This is the episode The Great Divide, and I'll give you the rundown real fast. I mean, most of you know it, but you got this canyon called the Great Divide. Obviously, it's supposed to kind of be like the Grand Canyon, and these two different types of people, they want to cross the canyon. They've been warring and feuding with each other for years, but they both want to escape the Fire Nation. Well, there's only this one guy, this Earthbender, who can get them through the canyon, and he agrees to take them both through, and of course the three heroes are with them, and they're going through, and the Earthbender, he gets injured, because he says, don't bring food with you, and each of the sides assumed the other side would bring food, so it makes it okay for them to bring food. And the reason for this was because of this this feud, or this prejudice that happened long, long ago between these two people, and there's a misunderstanding, and you don't know which side is true, and it's obvious, it's an obvious episode, but at the same time, they're sort of having fun with it, they're sort of playing with it like this, you know, kind of clever fable where, Aang says that, you know, oh, I'm the great peacekeeper and stuff, I can find the middle with anything, and he's having trouble with these two groups of people. They are just not listening to reason. So he decides he'll separate them, have them go these two separate ways, and sends Katara and Sokka to go and find out why they're feuding. And they both get different sides of the story, and they get sucked into the side. That's really clever, and I like that a lot. And when it comes back to where they meet up, they all start feuding, including the brother and sister, and they start getting this great big battle with each other. I mean, where they're saying, let's fight to the death. And then more of these giant spider creatures. You should see these spiders. It's like a mix between a spider and a pterodactyl. I love them. But they come in, and of course they figure out they have to work together in order to defeat them. And then, very clever kid show way of doing it, but very inventive the way they defeat them. Climb up the canyon. Everything seems to be okay, but they're still feuding. So then Aang tells them, he says, you know, well, okay, this is... Wait a minute, this is about these two feuding people 100 years ago? And they go, yeah. He says, I knew those people. That they were kids. They were like little kids. Yeah, and turns out the story is actually a very romanticized, exaggerated version of these two kids playing a ball game. And that's it. And that this whole battle and this prejudice and everything was just over these two kids feuding with each other the whole time. I mean, we're talking like toddlers, something like that. And they decide, well, that is an incredibly stupid reason to fight. Let's not fight anymore. Now, if the episode ended there, you would have had a really clever episode. It really dived into sort of prejudice and how stupid it can make you and how pointless it is half the time. And how much it makes things worse, and on top of it, it doesn't just say, hey, people who are prejudiced are bad, and they're just born that way, that's it. It looks at it from a different point of view of how did this get started, and how it can get twisted, and how other people can get sucked into it, and, you know, how something so minuscule can turn to something so large if you let it, and so you had a really good story. Literally, the last, like, half a minute, like, fucks it all up, in my opinion. It just totally fucks it up. Aang looks at the two kids, the brother and sister, and they're like, how'd you know that story? Or did you really come across them? And Aang's just like, nope, I was lying. Tee-hee-hee, off we go. Bullshit! That is bullshit! Okay, so you're making this great big message about feuding and prejudice, and then by saying it's a lie, this didn't happen, you're pretty much saying that lying to fix prejudice is okay. And here's the thing. With lying, I'm not going to act like there's never a time to lie or that we're not going to need to lie. I try not to go extreme on stuff. There's always going to be exceptions to the rule. There's going to be times where you're going to need to lie. There's going to be times where you're going to need to tell the truth, and so on and so forth. But for me, lying should only be done if you're not clever enough to find a way to tell the truth properly. You know, if you can't find a clever way to deliver this news. And so, or if you're not clever enough to find the answer to the problem. So, if Aang felt he had to lie, that's a stretch, but I could buy it a little bit more if he wasn't happy about it, if it's like, well, this was the only choice I had, and I feel really bad about her. What does this say about me as a monk? You know, the peacekeeping monk and stuff. I had to actually make something up. And no, it's just a funny little tee-hee-hee, off we go. It really, after I saw it, I mean, I sort of went in the shower, I'm like, did that make sense? Did that really? No, there's no way I can justify this. That was fucking stupid. Because you could have just cut half a minute earlier and had this really great, clever, even funny story. But instead, by having him say he lied and having no remorse for it, it's pretty much saying that all the other prejudices in the world, they can just be solved by making something up. You know, and that's not cool. You know, as people, we don't want to grow that way. We want to learn what's wrong with ourselves and fix it and look inward and all that stuff, and instead, nah, just make it up. You know, all the racial stuff that happened in the past, slavery and stuff, it was aliens. It's fine. Just, aliens came down, brainwashed the white guys, and, yeah, that's why we're jerks. That's it. Fuck that shit! Just no! I actually, it's like, I got angry at this episode because it had sort of these peaks and valleys, like, oh, is it gonna be just this? Oh, well, that's a new twist. Oh man, are we really doing that? Oh, well, that's sort of a new look at, and it was turning out really, really clever. And I was actually even thinking they were gonna take the route where you don't really know what happened in the backstory, which in a sense is still the route they took. You don't know which side is the true side, but if you're gonna do that, you just have them come to an agreement not knowing which side is the correct side, and just saying, hey, this doesn't affect us anymore. In many respects, it maybe never really affected us. Let's look at what's really important. But instead, he has to make stuff up. He has to create a Santa Claus. It's like, that's what it's like. It's like saying, there's a Santa Claus, no there isn't, oh wait, there is again. It's, oh man, did that not work for me. And, you know, like most of the episodes, everything else was pretty good. You know, the comedy was pretty good, and the creations, you know, this great divide, the valley, you know, or the canyon looked really cool. But, oh, man, this was like the first episode. I mean, they Spielberged it. It's like, it was fine until like until the ending, and it's just like, and I hate thinking that way. I don't like, you know, glancing over everything else because the ending wasn't good, but this is literally everything that's been building up to, and it did have an ending. It had a good ending and a smart ending, and then they added that on top of it, and it just wasn't needed. And I was trying to get around, like, some sort of philosophical way that this ending can be justified, and I just can't do it. I just cannot justify that ending, especially for kids. Especially when you had 2 or 3 perfectly good other endings. I mean, you could have ended this even a couple endings earlier, but I like the route they went where Aang tells the story about the 2 little kids. Because I thought that was very funny, and that was a very good way of really hammering in what the message is. But then, no, you know what, if you come across, you know, a Klansman, a Black Panther, just make up a story. You know, say, a lion from Narnia came and is just like, you know, hey, dude, I just made you black and white because I thought the colors were cool, but no, you hate each other and that's bad. No, really, Aslan said that to me. And they'd be like, oh, okay. Okay, that story makes no sense, but it doesn't matter, neither does this! It just makes no sense! So, oh, God. I don't know, man. That ending pissed me off, because the rest of the episode was good. It was a legitimately good episode. You know, again, it doesn't seem like it furthered too much. You know, the one other thing I'll bring up, outside of that, you know my opinion on everything else in the episode, but one other thing I'll sort of ask about is that at the beginning of the series, they say they're going to go to the North Pole. That's ultimately where they want to go. And Aang says, but we have to drop by these 3 or 4 places here. Why? Oh, because I want to go penguin sledding here, I want to see this great sight, I want to see this, and tee-hee, ha-ha, we have the time. We're just going to learn, you know, the North Pole, and hey, again, it'll outwit the firebenders looking for us, so, you know, and he's a little kid, they're all little kids. Okay, now there's, like, a really distinct mission, like, holy shit, we gotta do this fast because there's a comet coming. And yet, they're still going to, like, the Great Divide and stuff. Is that... were they getting something there, or are they really still just making these pit stops to look at, to go sightseeing? Is that really what's going on? Unless I'm missing something, but there's a comet, man, and the Fire Nation's gonna take it. They're gonna blow up all your shit, and you see in the Grand Canyon, no, making up stories, no. You don't do this, man. You don't. You're a monk. You're supposed to know better than this. So that was my thought. The rest of the episode I thought was fine. I thought it worked out really well. Just that last 30 seconds. I'm always fascinated how any anything that has a story I'm fascinated by how it can destroy itself in such small amount of times. And I'm seeing quite a lot of that recently, and it is fascinating. It just shows, I guess, in some ways, just how fragile a story is, or how easily it can be destroyed with just the right tinkering. But it had to come from a really good spot first. You had to be invested to begin with, and I was. The rest of the episode is really good. If anyone else can see how this can be justified, I mean, talk about it or discuss it. I don't know, because I just could not find a way. Again, not being against lying, there's always going to be times to lie. I did not see why he had to make up a story here that makes him look like a strong character, or makes him look like he was in the right. If it turns out he had to do this and they acknowledge he was in the wrong, I can understand that a little bit more, because that could be about human failure and how sometimes we can't always find the right answers, and, that's tough, but that's life. But no, they're making it look like he was in the right, and it's a funny little thing, and that's prejudice, man. That's like the big, holy shit, wars and death and slavery and all this terrible stuff that's still going on now, and you just sort of dumb it down. The answer is just make it up. No! Ooh, all right, so that's my little rant on that episode. I'm sorry. It's sort of a weird thing to get angry about, but I couldn't justify it. So and maybe you could. I love to know how, if you can justify it, how you see it adds up, but I couldn't, man. I just couldn't see how it could work. So maybe that's my prejudice. I'm lying. I don't know. So yeah, that's about it. Sorry, I couldn't like the ending more, but yeah, that's my 2 cents on it. Other than that, great episode, and as always, I look forward to seeing the next one. See you there.